This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John McElroon, joining me back from vacation, looking all tan and fresh. My cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? What's going down? You feeling all good?
Bro, I got burned so bad on, I think it was Monday. My sister ended up calling me on Sunday, and she was like, hey, could you come over to my house and help Dad build a couple stairs for me? And I was like, build some stairs for you? What are you talking about? And she's like, we ripped out the deck, and we need some steps to get into the house on the back porch. And I said, all right, sure, no problem. So I called my old man, and I'm like, hey, I heard you need some help building some stairs. He was like, yeah. I was like, cool. What do you need me to bring? He was like, just bring your drill. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I know how my old man operates. Like, everything has to be as hard as possible and as difficult as possible. And I've got a ton of tools. So I was like, you sure you don't want me to bring anything? He was like, nah, just bring your drill. I'll bring my circular saw. And I was like, so we're bringing a circular saw. You're bringing your drill and bringing my drill. All right, this sounds like a plan. This is going to be a complete and utter disaster. Anyways, he's like, it shouldn't take us that long. It's only 3 steps. And I said, I agree. It shouldn't take us that long. It's only 3 steps. Anyways, it took us over 8 hours. Over 8 hours to build 3 steps. We had to build 4 stair stringers. That's basically what the boards lay across so you can walk up into the house. So we had to build 4 of those from scratch. Mind you, I had no idea what I was doing. My dad's done it one time before, so this was kind of an unmitigated disaster. My future brother-in-law, the supplies that he got, my dad requested, and he got all the wrong stuff, so he had to go make a lumber run. On top of all of that, I brought like all of my tools. When I say I brought all of my tools, I brought a table saw, I brought a jigsaw, I brought a sawzall, I brought my circular saw, I brought both my drills, I brought everything. I brought everything but screws. Actually, nope, I did bring screws. I brought deck screws as well. I brought everything, and I showed him like, hey, I got all this stuff. Let's use it. And my dad's like, we don't need that stuff. Dude, it took 8 hours. I worked outside in a cutoff shirt. My shoulders and my neck are so red. When everything was said and done, it was like 6:30 Monday evening. I looked almost purple. That's how burned I was. It was absolutely insane. This is me coming back from vacation where I spent a ton of time in the sun. I was fried crispy, bro.
Oh, my. I'm sorry, man. Like, see, that's why, I don't know. Sometimes I go back and forth. Sometimes I wish I was more handy. Other times I'm like, oh, my God, based on the story you're telling, that's my story, is that everything that would take probably a regular handyman 25 minutes would take me 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So I just said, forget it. I just don't do it. I would rather work an extra 5 hours on a Saturday and pay someone to do it. And my dad told me, too, he would be laughing right now at this point. He'd be laughing at me because he told me when I was like 14, he's like, son, you're going to pay out your ass for plumbing. You're going to pay out your ass for electrical. You can't even freaking hit a hammer to a nail correctly. He's like, this is wrong. He'd always get mad at me. And I just, as an adult, I said, you know what? It's better to sit back, enjoy a Coors Light, enjoy some whiskey, as opposed to doing work. I can't, man. I'm working hard, 2-3 jobs. I don't have time for that. So when something comes up, what does it cost? Let's pay it out, man. And look, it's not the most manly thing to admit, but at the same time, and like we've said on previous podcasts, I've jacked up so many things I've tried that it's not funny anymore. You just get mad at yourself, and I don't want to feel that way anymore. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not handy. I admit it. I own it. It's not the skill I possess. Not everybody has every skill. Because I actually, at this point in time, if you said, John, what's a Stanley and what's a Phillips? I'm purely guessing, bro. Pure guessing. I don't know. I'm pure guessing. So I'm going to guess right now on the air. Is Stanley the straight one, or is that the cross?
It's the straight. Phillips is the cross.
Exactly. And you know it too. Pure guessing, because I never tied what? It's just straight or cross. Which one do you want? Go get me the Phillips. All right, come back with the straight one. No, asshole, the other one. I'm like, just it's so easy. The one with the straight or the one with the cross. Stop with the Stanley and Phillips and whatever that nonsense is. So, look, hopefully
Dude, that's how it is working with my old man. He'll be like, hey, grab you the 9/16 socket. And I'm over there digging around, looking at everything, picking them up, looking at the size. And he's like, you just can't look at it and grab it. And I'm like, no, man, like I don't work with tools all day. I can't just like reach in a bag, feel around. Oh yeah, that's the right one, and pull it out. Like he's got it down. Like the guy has worked with tools his entire life. He was a mechanic. He doesn't even, he just kind of like glance and he's like, yeah, that's the right one. Let's go grab it. And I'm just like, how do you know these things? Like how? I'm over here like looking at it, holding it up. And then he's like, no, it's the wrong one. He's like, that's standard. I need metric. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, huh? Dude, it's a complete mess. Like I'm good with tools. Like I'm way better than you with tools, but I'm not on my dad's level. My dad is like alpha and I'm just somewhere here in the middle.
It's a funny thing all the way around to look at, working with family too, because the old timers think that we all know everything and should just live, breathe, handy stuff. Man, we're the new generation. We just want to grab a beer, figure it out later. 8 hours. So does it work at least? Was it functional at the end of the day?
Yeah, no, I mean the stairs look great. Stairs actually look really, really good.
That's all.
Everything worked out. They're perfect. It was just one of those things where we thought it was going to be like a 3-hour deal, and it turned out to be 8. And it was just kind of a mess all the way around. But in the end, everything looks good. It was good work. It was kind of cool to work with my dad and then to work with my future brother-in-law. So it was good, man. It was a good time.
Yeah, we've shared this before. If we've ever had a fun opportunity, it's when Adam and his dad are sitting in the same setting. And his dad starts talking sports, and then Adam just gets annoyed because Adam just has no patience. And then it's just like, man, it's your pops. Respect your old man. It's okay. He might just say something that's just not exactly right. It's okay. Let him have something. But no, Adam's like, no, man. Adam will fight his dad tooth and nail with every word. And I'm sitting back going, damn, man. He's up on pops. It's okay. We're just talking sports. It's not the podcast. You're not trying to rip my head off here. Adam's trying to rip his dad's head off. We're all trying to have some beers, trying to get drunk, and Adam's all yelling and screaming. Oh man, the fantasy. We got to recap. We'll reset it one day with Adam and when we used to do fantasy football. Oh my God. When the old timers would redraft the same player that's been drafted like 4 rounds ago. Oh my God, that was the quickest way for Adam to blow his top. And actually, for me,
man.
That was for me, cause I'm not gonna lie. That was the highlight of my year.
Man,
that was the highlight of my year. I look forward to that.
Round. We're in the 9th round, and my dad's trying to draft Adrian Peterson. He's been gone since the 2nd. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Pay attention. But hey, by the way, so like just to kind of wrap this all up and bring it all full circle. The way I address him when we're talking sports and he gets things wrong or I just totally disagree with what he says, the way I address him is how he addresses me when we're building things or we're working with tools. Granted, this was the very first time. Building these stairs was the very first time I sat there and I laid in wait for him to just rip my head off and crap down my neck, and it never came. My dad is a horrible, horrible teacher. He just expects you to know things. This was the first time where we worked on something together. We built something together, and it was extremely enjoyable. It was totally different. The old man has softened in his age.
Good stuff, man. So at least take care of yourself because skin cancer is real. That's sun, man. You can't let your skin burn like that.
Oh, no kidding, man. Like I said, I didn't think we were going to be out there that long. So I was like, I don't need sunscreen. We'll be good. And by the time I was out there I think it was like by the time hour 5 rolled around, and at this point it would probably been about 1 or 2 o'clock at this point. I was like, damn, I really need some sunscreen. I need to get out of the sun. It was hot, man.
Yeah. And the funny part is before we start talking about the Detroit Lions, we're going to get to the concerns that everybody has about the defensive line and some other major issues with the Detroit Lions about Matthew Stafford and where he ranks and things like that. And of course, there's always a media member that's got to take a shot at Jim Harbaugh. So we will definitely address that. But the best thing I think it's fun is that, you being around 2 Middle Eastern people, what's fun is that there's a Middle Eastern person like me who freely admits that, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm almost certain I want to ask, is your brother-in-law the type that acts like he knows what he's doing, but has no clue? And then just, it's just funny to see because, we're prideful people and those guys that always just kind of pretend like they know what's up, but then you look at it and you go, wait a minute, you're doing everything ass backwards, man. And it's like takes twice as long. So how's your brother-in-law in terms of the handiness?
He's not bad. He's actually pretty decent. The problem with him is he wants to sit around and he wants to draw it all out, and he wants to instead of just going and doing it, he's got to talk about it, and then he's got to build it out in his head. So it'll take like 3 weeks before he gets around to doing something. And then that's the other thing. Before he actually gets around to doing it, it takes forever. So I bought my condo off of him, and I'm still waiting for him to come back and finish a couple things up. And I'm like, hey man, anytime you want, like I gave him a key. I was like, just come on over, take care of it, whether I'm here or not. Just finish it up. And he works on Caldo time. You know what I'm saying? It's what it is.
It is what it is. It's all good, man. It's good stuff. Adam's like, man, I can't escape those people. I can't escape. One on the left and one on the right. Can't escape them.
Hey, man, it is all good. You guys are great. I love you guys. You're fantastic.
The same,
look, man. You served me tabbouleh and you served me some.
Exactly.
What's the stuff that starts with an S that you used to serve me when I would come over? Schwartuk? Did I get it right?
Chicken tawuk shawarma. Chicken shawarma and chicken tawuk, man. Like the good chunk chicken, man.
Give me that.
Oh yeah, all that good stuff. And the garlic sauce. Oh, forget about it.
The garlic sauce is so good.
Yes, sir.
Rub it all over my body and lick it off.
Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Well, we do have to veer into sports a little bit. And as we head now, we're realizing, okay, probably NFL athletes are not going to enter buildings until training camp, which is fine. Virtually, everything's gone great. I mean, I actually love the virtual offseason. Never have to leave my office. Can write articles right from my office. Never have to go down to Allen Park, saving a million miles, saving a ton of money. So this has been great. So now everybody's really digging deep and paying attention to the Lions in terms of the roster. What really was actually, what took place? What did Bob Quinn actually accomplish this offseason? But I guess the one thing that really has been debated heavily is how much improved is the Detroit Lions defensive line. You added Danny Shelton. That was probably the biggest addition you got. Nick Williams, a role player that will come in and probably be a very good, productive defensive lineman. You recognize, okay, Trey Flowers on his own can't do it by himself. He had a productive 2019 season, will obviously be the centerpiece of that defensive line. Big question marks involve who's going to play the edge. How are the linebackers going to complement the defensive line? But if you really look at it, losing Snacks, losing, the likes of the talent that you had on the defense overall, not sure that the defense in and of itself is drastically that much better. You have different parts, but, the one fear that a lot of us have is that, okay, when you go and you pay Danny Shelton, why did the Patriots let him go? Yeah, there were some cost-cutting measures, but if he was really super talented, why would the New England Patriots be so willing to let him go? How's he going to fit in Detroit? And the number one thing that everybody has to see is the Lions have to be able to stop the rush because they struggled mightily. And then, obviously, besides stopping the rush, the pass rush, how committed to rushing the quarterback will the Lions be? Because you and I both, if they rush 3 and drop back 8, we're going to just be livid if they do that at a high clip. So I think the biggest maybe issue that the Lions are facing is, did they not do enough to really upgrade the defensive line in the pass rush?
I mean, for 14, 15, 16 weeks last season, that was the number one thing we complained about, was them not getting to the quarterback and them not providing enough pressure to force quarterbacks to make mistakes. I mean, the Lions ranked dead last year in putting pressure on the quarterback. On top of that, they were the worst team in the league against the pass. They allowed the most passing yards in all of the NFL. And then you go into free agency and you don't grab an impactful free agent to rush the quarterback or to put on the edge and get pressure on the outside and collapse that pocket. You go into the draft, and probably your most impactful move that you made was drafting Julian Okwara in the 3rd round. And I think we both agree he's going to be a solid player, but he's going to be a rookie. You added nothing of substance here, and you have almost $25 million in cap space where you could have went out and added a guy. Now, there are a couple guys still out there. Jadeveon Clowney's still available, but it doesn't sound like he wants anything less than a truckload of money, and I don't think he's worth that. So what do you do here? I mean, unless Matt Patricia is this godsend of a defensive guru like he was promised to be, I don't know how this team got any better, especially when you cut Devin Kennard, who led your team in sacks last year. I'm not sure how you got any better. I think you totally missed the boat when you were trying to upgrade this defensive line. And if you upgrade the defensive line, your secondary looks that much better. I mean, you're putting a rookie out there on an island with Jeffrey Okudah, and you're hoping he holds up. I don't think Desmond Trufant is some saving grace on the other side. Do you?
No, not exactly. No, I mean, the problem is he's an older veteran, and if you recognize and you go, okay, you lost Darius Slay. Yeah, he was older as well, but is Trufant that much better? I mean, that secondary got torched quite a bit. They didn't force a lot of interceptions, and you go, man, in a passing league, you're really taking a risk with Trufant, Okudah, and Justin Coleman. Which version of Justin Coleman are you going to get? We had a chance to talk to him, and he said it himself. He was asked point blank, like, the secondary pretty much was inefficient last year. He said, look, I can't talk for anybody else. I just have to play at a Pro Bowl level myself, and I'm going to commit to playing better myself. And if everybody takes that attitude, then we'll have a chance to meet our goals. And that's just the attitude I think that defense takes is, look, man, I think playing secondary and playing cornerback is the hardest position in the National Football League because it's such an offensive league. If you even, whisper to a wide receiver, they throw a flag. So it's a tough position. Yep. So to help them out, the Lions have to improve the pass rush. But if you look at it, Nick Williams last year, he'll be in the mix. I think the name that not a lot of Lions fans, maybe now have forgotten because of his injury history is Deshaun Hand. His rookie season, he forced the pressure. He was there doing his thing. And if he can come back, unfortunately, in 2019, he missed a plethora of time, and it showed the defensive line struggled, which was supposed to be the strength of the team. But if he comes back, you now look at, okay, on paper, you could have potentially Austin Bryant. You're going to have a rookie Julian Okwara. You're going to have a returning Deshaun Hand. The Lions are going to count on some youth to maybe up the pressure. And then you recognize, they got Jamie Collins and a young Jelani Tavai that will be doing some things at the linebacking core. So while, yes, you can be concerned if some developing players that the Lions have invested in can show up, namely Deshaun Hand and Austin Bryant, well, maybe you can do some things. But the real question mark is, bottom line, how many blitzes, how much pressure can the Lions actually dial up in game when it's crunch time? That's what's going to happen is that, late in games, you got to force the pressure. If you're going to let opponents' offenses stay on the field, 25 to 35 minutes every single game, and you lose that time and possession battle, it's going to be a problem. So I hope that the puzzle is coming into form. I think you're starting to see it. They want to run. They want to control the clock as much as possible, play super safe, make a couple plays on defense, and get out of Dodge. That's the plan. It's just much more challenging to execute than it is to actually go out there and try to do it. So I think this is what Matt Patricia's going to hang his hat on. This defense has to make plays, and hopefully they got the 2 or 3 guys to make them. But if you want to look and critique, you can definitely say that, hey, this Lions defense might not be as good, and they might not even be able to get as much pressure because you also, let's not underrate Devon Kennard, who had 7 sacks, I believe, 2 years in a row. You let that walk out the door. You cut him. So are you expecting more from Jamie Collins? That's a big question mark. So I think it's something to look at in terms of, in the draft too, because the Lions passed up on some guys that were definitely pass rushing specialists. They waited till the 3rd round. That's why, I guess I'll ask you. Now a couple weeks have passed. The emotions have subsided. DeAndre Swift is a sexy pick. He's a great player. Good guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to be somebody that will be productive, hopefully, in that trio of running backs. But if you look at just need, do you think the Lions could have bypassed taking Swift, counted on, Bo Scarborough, Ty Johnson, and drafted Huntley later, and then go with your veteran Kerryon Johnson, hope he stays healthy, and really invest higher in the defensive line in the 2nd round? If you can put, the sexiness away and what Swift can potentially do, we haven't seen it yet on the field. You think maybe the Lions will actually regret drafting a running back, a premium pick, when they had such a strong need at defensive line? They probably could have taken one with the 35th pick. They could have maybe made a different move.
Look, I totally understand what you're saying. If I was the Lions and you were able to redo it all, right, you'd probably move back a few and try to pick up an extra pick. But I think the value with what they got with Swift was too damn good. Remember, that is a 1st-round caliber player Kerryon Johnson hasn't been able to make it through a season since he's gotten to the league. I don't believe in Bo Scarborough. This was a guy who was picked up off the scrap heap and plugged in. Jason Huntley, we both believe he's probably going to be a special teams player, maybe a punt return or a kickoff return specialist. And then Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson looked good in spurts last year, but I don't believe he is the answer at either every down or even splitting carries with Kerryon Johnson. I think the pick to grab Swift was I'm totally okay with it. I get what you're saying. They could have really bolstered that defense and really upgraded it and really made it something a little bit more. I don't even want to use the word special, but you could have made it a lot more average than what it is right now. Because going into the season, I think both of us are really down on this defensive front. I don't think either one of us has a ton of belief in it. So unless Julian Okwara is going to come out and be some fantastic rookie, I'm just not sure what you got here. And you talked about Deshaun Hand and Austin Bryant, both these guys coming off of injuries last season. I like both those players. I was very happy with the Austin Bryant pick. I liked him in Clemson. I liked Deshaun Hand when he played. The problem is they're coming off of injuries. Are they going to be able to slot in? Are they going to be able to plug in? And are they going to be able to give you meaningful downs? I don't see the depth on this team up in the defensive front. And that's my big concern. And I feel like you could have addressed some of this, not even so much in the draft, because I think we both like the draft. I think we both believe that Bob Quinn had a pretty good draft this year. There were some questionable picks that were made, but in free agency, you could have really shored this up and allowed yourself some more flexibility when you got to the draft, and you just didn't do it. I just feel like it's a missed opportunity, and I just don't know if Bob Quinn's going to be able to correct it. Romeo Okwara and Julian Okwara, hopefully they're really, really good. Trey Flowers, I was unimpressed with him. He kind of turned it on late last year. All right, you circle in Deshaun Hand and Austin Bryant, gives you a little bit of depth, but you need guys. You need a pass rusher. You need somebody who's impactful and can get to the quarterback and cause havoc regularly. And the way the Detroit Lions play under Matt Patricia, I just don't see it happening. It's more of we just need bodies to guard the line, stop the run, and then we're going to lean on basically our back seven. So you're putting a ton of pressure on your linebackers in your secondary, and I just don't think that spells winning football. If you get a guy who can manhandle a left tackle or even a right tackle and just collapse that pocket and put so much pressure on a quarterback that he's either throwing off a back foot or he's forcing a pass down the field, it allows your secondary and it allows your linebackers to close and either force a turnover or make a big play that can swing momentum, especially if you're down. I think the way this team is constructed right now, it's really, really dangerous because if you go up against really good teams and you fall behind, you said it yourself, the way everything is built, they want to play safe. They want to play safe and they want to win close games. That's all fine and good. But when you go up against really high caliber teams that can just put points on the board, teams like Baltimore, teams like Kansas City, teams that are regularly in the playoffs, teams that you want to be like, that spells disaster. That is a recipe for disaster, and it's a recipe for L's. And we had way too many L's last year, and I just don't want to see any more L's. I'm tired of it. I want to win. I want winning football. As a Detroit Lions fan, I want winning football. I want guys to get to the quarterback. I want them to beat up quarterbacks. I want them to eat left and right tackles for lunch. And I just want them to force the offense to pay. And the way everything is set up right now, it's just kind of ho-hum. And that frustrates me.
Absolutely. And then you see all the lists that come out before the season. No Lions in the top 100, no Lions in the top 50, no Lions listed in the up-and-comers list, rising stars, nothing. And so you get a little concerned, and you see, okay, on the other side, Matthew Stafford gets a little bit of love. He's on the, potential comeback player of the year, long shot MVP, stuff like that. Obviously, he gets a lot more respect nationally than he does locally, but you recognize, okay, this is a quarterback that we all love and we all believe can do great things if he is healthy. What's that back going to do? Nobody knows. What's going to happen when he takes that first shot? Khalil Mack breaks through a block and gives Stafford a little extra, elbow in that back. We don't know yet. So that's why it's ultimately very scary this year based on every drop back that Matthew Stafford has. we're all going to be freaking out because everyone knows that the success of the Lions is going to depend on the health of Matthew Stafford. But ESPN did a fun redraft. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. It was interesting. I think it allowed for some great debate. Follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Visit SI All Lions, where we have fun Detroit Lions analysis, expert coverage, videos, good stuff like that. But ESPN, what they did was they completed a redraft, and they used all NFL players, and it was pretty sweet. Number 3 pick, Michael Rothstein, the Lions beat writer, he had the Lions selecting Lamar Jackson. And, ooh, what a fun debate on Tuesday did we have. It was, I was surprised, it was about 60-40. 60% of people obviously would go with the younger cat in Lamar Jackson, 40% in our poll at SI All Lions, where I asked, hey, next year, if you just had, suspend disbelief, 2021, Stafford or Lamar Jackson. It was 60-40. It was a good debate. Youth and Lamar Jackson, his style, his pizzazz, and everyone's loyalty to Matthew Stafford. But surprisingly, Stafford didn't go in the top 15. I believe he ended up getting drafted in the ESPN redraft number 19. So you look at that and you go, 32-year-old quarterback, hasn't had a ton of success, definitely is a guy with a big arm, an arm that is world-class. Everyone raves about it. But bottom line, just doesn't have much in the trophy case collectively with the Lions to show for it. So at this point in time, with everything involved, where do you think Matthew Stafford shakes out in terms of what kind of tier quarterback? Because I would put him probably at this point still a tier 1, but if it depends on how many quarterbacks you list at tier 1, I think he's like a number 7, 8 overall quarterback in the National Football League, just outside of the top guys. 7, 8, he's a guy that is worth the money, but probably not worth, another extension. But I just think that a guy like Matthew Stafford is going to have another big year this year to kind of silence some critics.
Yeah, so in that redraft, Stafford was drafted 28. He was the 19th quarterback overall taken.
Oh, 19th quarterback. Wow.
Yeah, 19th quarterback. So according to ESPN, if you go by that math and by that logic, he's more of a bottom tier 3, tier 4 quarterback.
Wow.
Because I think in your tier 1 quarterbacks, you're probably looking at what, a top 3 or a top 5. Those are those really elite special quarterbacks. I think tier 2 are the guys who are kind of on that cusp. You probably have anywhere from 5 to maybe 8 quarterbacks in that tier 2. And then tier 3 and 4 is kind of the shakeup of all the rest. And for me, I think Matt Stafford is probably that cutoff between tier 2 and tier 3. I think he is probably a tier 2 quarterback. I found this list to be really, really interesting, though, because I think we both agree Patrick Mahomes is an absolute stud. Lamar Jackson, absolute stud. Russell Wilson, an absolute stud. And those guys were drafted in the top 3 of this redraft. Deshaun Watson is fantastic. He was the 4th quarterback to go. Somehow Drew Brees goes as the 5th quarterback. I find that to be a lot of love for an aging veteran quarterback. Drew Brees still able to get it done, but he is on the last year. He's probably going to retire after this year. And honestly, after his comments about everything that happened with George Floyd, surprised he didn't end up walking away because it caused a lot of stir, especially with some of his teammates. But he was able to reel it all in. It looks like the Saints are going to be able to go forward as planned. But Drew Brees is your 5th quarterback. So if you're going to do your elite quarterbacks, those first 5, it basically goes Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, and then Drew Brees. So now you're looking at tier 2. And I think it gets a little bit murky here with this list because I think Matt Stafford's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Carson Wentz might be a better quarterback than Matt Stafford. Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford, I think, are probably on the same level, if you ask me. I think Aaron Rodgers is starting to decline. I think he's starting to slip. All that being said, Matt Stafford hasn't been able to stay healthy the last 2 years. I think these two guys are tier 2 quarterbacks, and I think they're probably on the same level. If you want to say Aaron Rodgers is better than Matt Stafford, I have no problem with that. But I don't think he's that much better than Matt Stafford. Joe Burrow is on this list. I'm going to give him an incomplete grade because you don't know what he is yet. You don't know how he's going to perform. Tom Brady is listed below Aaron Rodgers. If you had your pick between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, who are you taking?
Ooh, at this time, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. You're going to take Aaron Rodgers. See, I'll take Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers. I think Tom Brady can do a little bit more than Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career. Drew Lock is underneath Tom Brady.
Wow.
And above Matt Stafford. You mean to tell me Drew Lock is a better quarterback than Matt Stafford right now? I don't agree with that.
No, I don't
Matt
either.
Ryan's another guy. Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers. I feel like they're all interchangeable guys. It's like quarterback here, this guy, generic brand, whatever. Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. Go. One of those guys. Kyler Murray is next. Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater had a decent year last year, playing in a couple of games. And all this love for Teddy Bridgewater kind of blows my mind. It's going to be interesting to see what Teddy Bridgewater does this year, but they have Teddy Bridgewater listed above Matt Stafford. Jimmy Garoppolo is listed above Matt Stafford. Baker Mayfield is listed above Matt Stafford. And I love Baker Mayfield. I absolutely love him. But Baker Mayfield is listed above Matt Stafford. Sam Darnold. You mean to tell me, if you had your pick between quarterbacks, you're going to go Sam Darnold or you're going to go Matt Stafford? Who are you going with? I'm going with Matt Stafford and his achy old ass back over Sam Darnold. I just don't believe in Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
I just don't.
The quarterback situation's fun, but the one, obviously besides Stafford and the elite quarterbacks like Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, the situation that just, for me, has got me curious is the situation in Tennessee. You know, they had Mariota, and then they turn around with Tannehill, and they get a rebound, and you're like, man. Because obviously here in Detroit, we're paying a quarterback a ton of money. You know, Tannehill got his. But that situation's so fascinating in that you wouldn't think that Ryan Tannehill would come in and lead a team. But that's what happens when you got the likes of a Derrick Henry, solid defense, solid offensive line, a coach that knows what he's doing. You can make a Ryan Tannehill throw the ball great to wide receivers. See, it's just simple as that. Why is it so hard here in Detroit to put that formula together for a guy that is supremely 15 times more talented than Ryan Tannehill? And it's just like, come on. You know, I don't want to see Tannehill holding up the AFC trophy. I don't want to see him outshine Stafford when I think the Lions go down to Tennessee this year and play the Titans. So it just is a crazy situation with these quarterbacks and how much they really are dependent on the team. I know it's a team game, but Stafford, when you look at it, probably is a little bit underrated in terms of how people here in Detroit view him. But I think nationally, you know, if they want to go 19 other quarterbacks, you got to remember too, you know, age, you know, at this point in time, 32, starting to just enter, getting long in the tooth. A lot of quarterbacks, because young in their 20s, I think that's where a lot of these writers that start making these lists out and start drafting these quarterbacks go, all right, because, there's no reasonable way that Matthew Stafford is the 19th best quarterback. No way. He's obviously
let me
top
ask
10.
you this real quick.
No way.
Let me ask you this real quick. So do you think, and this is just something as we're kind of working through this and talking about this, and I think the comparison to Ryan Tannehill is perfect. Do you think that Matt Stafford, in having all of the ability that he has, allows a general manager to maybe be a little bit lazy? When you look at what's going on in Tennessee, right? You get Ryan Tannehill. You actually traded for him. You've seen something in him that Miami didn't. You said, cool, we want him. We'll trade you for him. You bring him in. And then you just kind of have him sit behind the Mariota until Mariota screws it all up. And then you're like, cool, Ryan, it's your show. Let's go. But doing all of that, you built a team around Tannehill, and you helped to mitigate what he doesn't do well, but accentuate what he does do well. Whereas a guy like Matt Stafford, you just kind of look at him, you're like, man, he's so talented. He can do everything. We can just do whatever. And I think as a general manager, you kind of have this lazy approach to addressing what your quarterback needs. And then you don't necessarily build around him to kind of hide some of what he doesn't do great and really help accentuate what he does well. And what you end up getting is you kind of get this mismatch of this is the talent that we have, and this is what we're giving you. Now go win with it. If you look at a guy like Lamar Jackson does a lot of things really, really well. And there are some things Lamar Jackson does not do well at all. Yet Lamar Jackson is, in our conversation, he is being considered an elite quarterback. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think it's more because the general manager and the head coach realize what they have, and they know what they have to do to accentuate what he does well, and they know what they have to do to take it off the table so he doesn't hurt himself. Whereas in Detroit, I feel like everything is game. Matt Stafford, go out there and do what you want. It doesn't matter. You're the best guy on the team, whatever it may be. Wins, losses be damned. You just go out there and you just play your game.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the wrong approach. I think it might be lazy. I think you have a lazy coach, and I think you have a lazy general manager, and that's why we end up in these situations.
Well, I bet you if you got them behind closed doors, they would say, look, man, we were forced. The ownership came to us and said, look, we're giving this guy money. Well, Bob Quinn does have to take responsibility for extending Matthew Stafford. He had his chance. He had his chance to battle ownership and say, hey, this is not our guy. We're not going to win. But everybody in Allen Park, everybody in Detroit, that organization loves Matthew Stafford. And we'll see it because the writing's on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Because if they don't get the job done this year, it's getting a little bit easier to cut them. And you don't have to give them that extension. I know it'll hurt, but this is a make or break year for all involved. And I think it might produce some good results. Yeah, I think that the organization definitely hasn't done enough to support Matthew Stafford in the last couple years. But look, man, you can't build a perfect roster. Stafford had Calvin Johnson. He's had talented individuals. He's had receivers. He's had people to throw to. They invested in Eric Ebron. They invested in T.J. Hawkinson. Now they've invested another, first-round picks on offensive linemen. Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow. They're trying as best as they can. At some point, Matthew Stafford's got to deliver. And this could be the year. This could be the year. If everything comes together and they stay healthy, this might be the make or break year, especially if he returns healthy and hungry that he missed half of the year. But yeah, he could end up being an organization killer, not just a GM killer, not a coach killer, but an organization killer. A whole decade, 2009 all the way in the 2010s. Holy cow, man! It's eventually the Lions are going to have to decide, okay, what's the next step for this organization if Matthew Stafford doesn't lead this team to the playoffs? It could be because a fourth regime. How can Matthew Stafford weather that? I mean, another coach, another general manager, that would be unheralded. That would be unheard of, that another general manager would come in here, look at everything and go, yeah, I'm going to roll with Stafford again. Get the hell out of here. Another coach come in and be like, I'm going to roll with Stafford again? Get out of here. It'd be almost as crazy as all the Michigan fans that still have love for Jim Harbaugh. The ones that look at the recruiting and go, man, we got a linebacker. Man, we got some good talent coming in. It's happening. We're getting those 4 stars now. I'm still hearing those whispers, but I am happy. The last 2 or 3 years, Michigan fans have listened to Adam Strozinski. I'm very happy. They've listened to John McElroon. They've realized, all right, Jim Harbaugh hasn't beaten Ohio State. He's gotten torn apart. His teams not only have lost, but they've lost in major ways. So Paul Finebaum's like, dude, I'm tired of predicting Michigan having a good year. Jim Harbaugh's the most overrated coach in the history of college football, or at least to that degree. Paul Finebaum definitely loves to take shots at Michigan, and he came out recently and said, look, man, it's about time that Jim Harbaugh does something. And hoo-wee, outside of Paul Finebaum, because Jim Harbaugh definitely has a problem because a lot of people right now entering into this Michigan season are really down on the program. I've never seen it where people are just like, show me, show me, show me. I've never seen it this way. I've never seen entering into a college football season a fan base, a Michigan fan base that has been that sully, that's down on their team. I'm like, whoo, what's going on? You seeing it that way? Because from what my senses observe online, Michigan fans are not happy with what's going on with Michigan football.
Well, you shouldn't be. I mean, look, Jim Harbaugh was brought here for a reason. He was brought here to win Big Ten championships. How many do they have underneath him? 0. He was brought here to get into the college football playoff. How many appearances do they have? 0. He was brought here to win national championships. How many do they have underneath him? 0. How many times have they beat Ohio State? It's the same answer. It's all zeros. He hasn't done what he was supposed to do when he got here. So I was trying my damnedest to because I don't like Paul Finebaum. I just don't. I find him to be a little bit arrogant. But I was doing my damnedest to try to prove him wrong when he said Jim Harbaugh is the most overrated coach in the country. I sat there. I went through college football. I went through the NFL. I went through the NHL. I went through the NBA. I went through Major League Baseball. I went through MLS. I couldn't find anybody who is as hyped as Jim Harbaugh is.
Preach, brother.
And has delivered so little.
It's true. Paul Finebaum's right. And actually,
he's absolutely right.
He's absolutely right. It's just a make or break year for Jim Harbaugh. And the big thing that's concerning to everybody involved is Jim Harbaugh hasn't found his quarterback. for the quarterback whisperer, a guy that discovered Colin Kaepernick, made the move, got him to the Super Bowl. His time in Michigan has been disappointing, and we'll definitely talk more about it as we dive into the previews that we always do. But Jim Harbaugh this year has to start to rebuild that reputation of the Michigan Wolverines because, yeah, it's good. You win 80% of your games, 90% of your games, but you can't lose the big ones all the time. Period. You got to beat Ohio State. You got to have more success against upper echelon talent. Yeah, you can go and beat Army, Navy. You can beat Michigan State. But at Michigan, the expectations have and always will be higher. You got to win. You got to win the big games. Period.
Can we talk about Jim Harbaugh, the quarterback whisperer? Because I think some of this has been blown way out of proportion, and I think this is a guy who has capitalized on an ultra elite college talent like Andrew Luck, and because of Andrew Luck, that got him propelled to the NFL. In the NFL, yeah, he had to make the decision to switch from Alex Smith, who was playing very, very well. He had to make the decision to switch from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick, but Colin Kaepernick was an elite level athlete. Like, this guy could do everything. He was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson, And I think he just had the foresight to realize, hey, this guy can pretty much do everything. So when a play breaks down, he can just scramble for 42 yards and pick us up first downs and move the chains. So why the hell not design an RPO type offense for him and accentuate what he does? I think Jim Harbaugh, the QB whisperer, until proven otherwise, is a guy who has capitalized on a guy like Andrew Luck playing at Stanford and has capitalized on making a decision to switch from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick, who made that San Francisco 49er team a much more dynamic offense and a much more explosive offense because Colin Kaepernick was that much more of an explosive athlete than Alex Smith. And look, you can say what you want to say about Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith is a damn good quarterback. I think he is a fine talent. I think Alex Smith kind of got screwed around in San Francisco, where in, I think it was 3 or 4 years, he basically had 3 or 4 different coaches and had to learn 3 or 4 different offensive schemes. If you put Matt Stafford in that situation, Matt Stafford's going to look like an absolute scrub. By the time he's getting ready to learn the offense, they're changing it again. And Alex Smith, underneath Jim Harbaugh, showed he's a really good quarterback. Alex Smith ends up going to Kansas City, shows he's a really good quarterback. Alex Smith goes to Washington, and up until his leg breaks into a bajillion little pieces and he has to have 17 surgeries on it, shows he's a really damn good quarterback. So Jim Harbaugh is a guy who has capitalized on Andrew Luck's elite level talent and making a decision to switch from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick because he was a much more explosive talent. That is the deal. He has not developed any quarterbacks. I mean, if you go back to his time when he was with San Diego State, or you go back to his time before Andrew Luck, what quarterbacks has he developed? Okay. Zero. Okay. Who has he developed here at Michigan? Zero.
And that's why, yeah. And that's why they haven't had success. And I can see your frustration, man. But look, this is a great spot for us to end because our time is limited. I know you're getting into it, but I think this is a good spot for us to table this for next week, and we can break it all down because while you might not give him as much credit, I'm going to give him a little bit more, but you're absolutely right. He must find a quarterback moving forward at Michigan, whoever it may be, Milton, McCaffrey. You got to find the guy and develop him. And no matter how much credit or not you're going to give Jim Harbaugh, bottom line, he's got to do a much better job heading into 2020 because if not, this fan base, as angry and as frustrated as they are, will become apathetic, and that's the one thing you don't want. But we'll debate it. We've debated it in the past, but I give him just a little bit more credit. I love it. Good debate on Michigan. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Let him know how you feel about Michigan and the program. Let us know on the podcast at Detroit Podcast. I always love talking and jabbing Michigan football. And then in the coming weeks, too, we got to talk about Mel Tucker. Starting off a little quiet, but he is, inching into some recruits. But it's just a tough time with the COVID situation. There's still some question marks regarding how the fans will be incorporated into college sports. And we'll look into all that in the next coming days and such on future episodes of the podcast. Michigan State. We haven't forgot. I know we've talked a lot of Lions. We haven't forgot about the Wolverines and Spartans. We will hit them for sure hard next week on the next edition of Doc and Jock. Thanks, cuz.
Peace out, homie. Be good.